Hello, everyone. Mark DeJesus here. Welcome to this broadcast. I pray that what I share and how I share it will be a real blessing to your life and to your journey. I want to talk about the subject of trials. I want to talk about the struggle when you're going through a burning inferno. Some people call it, I'm going through hell. Well, wherever you are, because trials certainly have a spectrum to it. And I think that we as believers need to understand there's some important things that impact how we respond to trials. And what I want to give here is not just some outside perspective. I want to give you some things that have been very practical, yet at the same time very helpful for the trials I have gone through or things I'm currently going through that help me to live as an overcomer. The Bible talks about being an overcomer in the latter part of scriptures, and I believe that's an important aspect in your life, in your journey. How do you live as an overcomer if there isn't something you're overcoming in your life? And can be a lot of areas, a lot of battles, things that rise against you, things that challenge you to the core, situations and struggles. I was reading in 1 Peter and just walking through, there's some future biblical material I'm going to prepare and talking about suffering and trials and difficulties. And there's this word, pyrosis, it's translated fire. And the meaning of it means the burning of metal. And it speaks of these calamities and these trials and these things that come against you. Some of them seem to come out of nowhere. They ignite fast and hard. It's a financial situation. It's a betrayal. It's a massive change. Something that's traumatic, something that is surprising, something that just hits you. Something that may not be super sudden. It just progressively grows, and it's very, very difficult. It could be aspects of suffering in your life that you're going through at different levels. And when we talk about suffering, there's so much to it that we could bring out in future broadcasts. Maybe I'll help define suffering a little bit in a way that is biblical, grounded, but in ways that empower us. But I want to keep it simple. You're just going through stuff. And for many people, they get very discouraged, depressed. They lose heart. They bail out. They feel like quitting. My inbox gets hit every day with people just crying out for help. They are overwhelmed. They feel hit by all the battles they're facing. And I'm not one that's just going to pep rally you out of it. I'm also not one that's going to just sulk in it. Which do you find comes out when you're going through trials? Are you constantly pep rallying to the point that you're denying what's happening? Or do you find yourself so neck deep, feel like you're drowning in it? And you can sulk in it, and you become victimized by the very work that this trial is bringing out. And so what I want to share with you is 3 things that have been helpful for me in my journey when it comes to trials. And I've seen this in everybody I work with, and they're very practical. They're not things that are going to be just like these theological things I'm going to throw out there. And they're things you can begin applying now. And these are the 3 things I find when it comes to trials that we need to look at. And they're going to be so simple, you're almost going to think, wow, you may want to even skip over it. But if you're somebody that wants to learn to be an overcomer, everything goes back to the simplicity, the fundamentals. If you feel like you're constantly looking for something deeper, that's a great, great passion. But if you feel like there's something I'm missing, what you're probably missing is the power of the fundamentals. And when you hear them, they pass right through. It's like when I constantly teach on what you need is love. You go, yeah, what we need is love, blah, blah, blah. What do I really need? I got problems. I got stuff going on. What do I really need? And it's like, yep, love is really missing. Really missing. So what I want to do is I want to encourage you with 3 things that have helped me, and I apply these to this day. Whether it's physical things I'm going through, mental health battles, relationship battles, financial struggles, church things I've been through, ministry things I've been through, family battles, struggles with whatever, these trials that hit us. Peter said this in his writing. He said, don't be shocked at the fiery trials that come against you. Don't be shocked at this. Because there's stuff in his writings. He says, first of all, there's stuff like this going on to other believers all across the world. Don't think you're the only one going through this. 2, there's a process that's taking place. God is not rescuing us from all our problems. He's not rescuing us from the trials. He's walking with us through them. And in it, there are many things that are available to us that only the trial can bring out. There are things available, keys available, that only a trial can bring out in your life. And so we want to get out of them. We don't want to repeat them. There's no trial I've been through that I want to repeat and go through again. But I can see sometimes they go longer than we want them to. They're challenging, but they get our attention. And what I want to do is I want to help empower what you pay attention to, because I find many of my brothers and sisters are just wiped out by their trials. And you got a sudden diagnosis, or you got a certain thing happening, or certain news that's taking place, or something that's just, and maybe you got stacks of them. And I get these emails and my heart aches because of the pain that's going through. And the best way that I can be a support to the tribe is to bring broadcasts like this that are recorded that you can listen to. Some people write to me and say, I listen to these things in my sleep. I go to bed listening to your broadcast. Some people play it while they're walking, while they're cooking. They're cooking dinner and they've got their earbuds in and they're listening. Or they're at work and they've got it playing while they're working. Whatever. That's my goal and my passion for my life journey, is to create content where I can be a voice as your brother. It's like we're sitting down and I'm just talking to you. And in no way do I want to dismiss any pain and any struggle, nor do I want to encourage you to compare it to other people. Well, my trial's not as bad as theirs, so what's wrong with me? Nah. Everything is difficult to various people for various reasons. You got stuff you're going through. You got fire. Some of you call it, I'm going through hell. There's 3 things I want to bring out to you. Mark, would you hurry up and get to them? Yes, I'm getting to them. But I like to talk. I like to share and conversate, even though this is a monologue, but it's in a conversational format, because that's the strength of the grace that God's given me to encourage people. The first thing fundamentally that I have found is important when it comes to trials is my day-to-day state of mind, my mood. Trials do not form our mood. They bring out the mood, the state of mind that we are already cultivating. The mindset that we carry on a daily basis. So the number one thing that I guard, watch over, invest in, cultivate, learn, enhance, grow in my life is how to cultivate an empowered state of mind. My daily life is that I would manifest the fruit of the Spirit, manifest faith, hope, and love, power, love, and sound mind. Those are the metrics of thoughts that I go, God, I see it and I want to manifest it in my life. And I'm always growing, always learning, always changing. And so I see it as empowerment. I love the word empowerment. I actually believe it's biblical, even though that literal word may or may not be used in that kind of way, but empower, to add power. I believe the biblical word edification, to build up. It's another way of looking at it. But adding power. I believe that God is a God of adding power wherever you're at. But I got to find that. And the first thing I realize is the trial brings out my cruddy state of mind. And I realized very early on, the first big wave of trial that I went through is these constant barrage of trying to work through these mental health processes in my life. What I didn't realize was this would be some of the most massive renovation that God would do in my life. It was also the place where I know the enemy had come to steal, kill, and destroy and end my life and wipe me out. So I know the trenches of what that stuff feels like. These battles that don't make sense that we fall into, that we come into. What I've noticed is that trial would meet up with a state of mind, a mood that was not in an empowered place. Now, I don't know necessarily that, as believers, the trials should just meet you and you just respond perfectly. No. But the Bible does talk about, Peter said, I'll pull it up here. I'm quoting the Bible, I might as well pull it up, right? 1 Peter 4 here, 12. I highlighted it here. Beloved, don't think it strange concerning the fiery trial which is in you, as though some strange thing happened to you. That's what I was mentioning earlier. They're like, oh, this is weird happening. No, there's stuff happening. And he says, but rejoice to the extent that you partake of Christ's sufferings, that when his glory is revealed, you also be glad with exceeding joy. So there's a theme in the Bible of joy in trials. What I propose to you, now many of you spiral because you go, I don't have any joy. I'm a terrible Christian. Stop it. Stop it, because you're missing the empowerment. What I want you to understand is that the apostles lived cultivating a daily state of mind so that when trials hit, it hit the joy they were cultivating. We sometimes, we live joyless lives and trials hit and we go, man, I have no joy in anything, right? It's just bringing out that joy is something we need to learn. The trial brings out things in your mood and your state of mind that need empowerment. And one of the things that I felt God was highlighting in my life was that I had a very passive way of dealing with my mood. And most people that come to me for help regarding mental illness, they're very passive regarding their state of mind. They wake up, whatever they feel, they get lost in it, they just go with it. And that was one of the early signals, was that, Mark, you need to learn to cultivate your mood, to know you have the power of decision, that you can decide where your compass is heading. Your feelings may be off track. Your joy may feel like it's not there. Your peace may seem absent, but you have the ability to choose your attitude, choose where you're headed, and choose what you're going to focus on. And I learned that many of us, we live from I'm not in a good place and, woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Well, if it's that simple, then go back in bed and roll out the other side, right? We then base our mood on circumstances. Things ain't going right. When the financial account's better, I'll feel better. When relationship's better, I'll feel better. When this is better, I'll feel better. These codependent patterns, these attachment patterns, these enmeshment patterns, these things we're just so tied and wired to determine. And I had to realize mental health trials and discouragement and financial hardship and relational loss and all these things taught me I need to learn to be a better friend to myself. And I need to learn how to cultivate my daily mood, because this thing is revealing it. Trials don't cause our mood, they reveal our mood. And I wanted to move from a state of mind that's not dependent on circumstances. When a problem meets an empowered state of mind as believers, we become more tuned to the frequency of what heaven's doing. Now, it does not mean when a trial hits, you just go, we're just going to have a happy day, bless God. No, that's a form of denial. You may weep. You may cry. You may need some time to yourself to work things out. You see, it's not like one side only or the other. Sorrow's a part of life. Grieving's a part of life. But in the emotional spectrum, I'm finding my way to, I want to be empowered on a daily basis to live in faith, hope, and love. I want to keep feeding love. I'm loved. God loves me. I love myself. I love my neighbor as myself. And that fuels my hope. That's the faith, hope, and love formula, the Bible formula. This is not something I made up. This is not self-help. This is Bible. Faith, hope, and love. These three things remain. Because without these things, Paul said, without love, stuff is useless. So I want to ground myself in love first and foremost in the trial. That's going to help my mood and my state of mind. Compassion. Looking at my situation through compassion. I need nurture right now. I'm going to be kind to myself because God is kind to me in this. I'm going to let love flow in my heart because that's what I need. I'm going to draw near to relationships that are important to me because many times trials strip things down, don't they? And you see who your friends really are and who your friends that are not really your friends, and it just kind of cuts the clutter out. When you go through financial trials, you start to cut away at all these expenses and things, and you get to what's really important with your finances and what's really not. Are you catching what I'm saying? It helped me to narrow down to what's really important and get heart connected. There are people in my trials, they stuck with me. And I like to practice what I sometimes call reverse resentment. You say, Mark, what is reverse resentment? Well, resentment is remembering and keeping a record of someone who wronged you. I like to practice keeping a record of those who've stood there with me in my journey. They may not be my best friends for the rest of my life, may have been for a season, but I keep that in my heart as a place of gratitude of people who just showed and demonstrated faithfulness, love, grace, kindness. There's been some kind interactions I've had with people I will never forget, and I'm eternally grateful. And I extract it, and many times it helps my mood to remember what God has done, to connect to gratitude. Now, when I feed my life on hope, and I focus on it, and I let myself dwell on it and learn it, and we say, well, I can't struggle. Where's God? I can't struggle with his love. Be compassionate towards yourself. Square one is you being compassionate with you. I can't feel God. Where is he? Okay, then go back to square one and stay there and stay there and stay there until you look in the mirror and you really start connecting to the compassionate love that's available. So out of that love, hope builds. Start to build a sense of optimism, true optimism. I'm not talking about denial and just, everything's rosy. My perspective, my vision starts to change. I start looking for things that are filled with hope. Because what you look for, you'll find. So if I'm looking for everything that's going wrong, I'll find it. If I'm looking for everyone that's against me, you'll find it. You'll find it. You'll find verification. You go into a room with 100 people. If you're looking for the people that are wrong, you could have 99 people be incredibly kind to you, but you'll find the one person, and that's the one person memory you'll take away from it, because that's what you look for, right? This is stuff I had to learn in my life. I had a rejection lens filter, negativity filter, fear-based filter. So everything people write about, I've had it, I've been in it, I know what it feels like. It's awful. And I had to learn no one can cultivate my state of mind. I have to. What I take in from what I listen to, what I feed my mind on, the food I eat, the exercise, the sleep, all these things. I said, I'm putting all hands on deck. I want my mood and my state of mind to be empowered, because when a trial hits, I want to be ready for what's available. And when the empowered state of mind, heart place is cultivated. So wherever you are right now, ask yourself the question, what is the daily state of mind? What is the daily mood that I am cultivating in my life and in my journey? Because it's everything. If I just let my mood go where it goes in its default setting and it goes off track, and then a problem is brought to me, my response will be completely different than if daily I am dwelling on. And that's what God's wanting to teach us. to stop knee-jerk reacting. The trial sometimes causes a knee-jerk reaction. Oh God, oh God. Instead of waiting for the trial to hit, why not today cultivate a more empowered state of mind? Or you're in the midst of the trial, it's a wake-up call. I need to learn how to cultivate an inner life that is empowered, that strengthens the state of mind I bring to it. Okay, that's number one. Your current emotional state of mind, your current mood. Number two, what trials, I'm talking about three key factors that influence how you're going to respond to a trial. Two is your worldview. What's your worldview? Your current worldview. Trials don't necessarily, they don't in the moment form your worldview, they bring it out. Now, if we don't let the trial have its work, it can negatively form our worldview. So what happens is we say, God doesn't help people. He doesn't step in. People are jerks. Churches are this. Women are that. Men are this. God is this. I am that. All these disempowered beliefs we start to carry out of we weren't equipped in trials to approach them empowered. So what is your worldview regarding problems, tragedy, and trials? When they strike, do you go, God caused this. He's after me. He's just hitting my life with problems. Do you put the mirror on yourself and go, this is all my fault? What did I do wrong? Do you look outward and go and blame the world around you and the people around you? What's your response? Do you have a spiritual warfare view of realizing, hey, we're in a war and we're in a battle and stuff happens? What's your view of God in the midst of trials? Is he punishing you? Now, I'm not here. This is something that people a lot of times don't understand. I am not here to debate with your God worldview. Do you know why? It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. You'll shift your worldview, your God view, when you're ready to. So I don't debate. When emails come into debate, they go in the archive. Don't bother. I spent years, wasted a lot of energy fighting fights that, Paul told Timothy, it just promotes strife. It's a waste of time. And I read that and I was like, yes, but then I would compulsively just follow these arguments. And I've learned. Does nothing. Why? Because our hearts need to be awakened to the change. Now, when I would go through trials, it would trigger a worldview of this. I get the short end of the stick in life. That's what it brings up. I think it's helpful in your battles to pay attention to the sentences that come to the surface, because those are the core belief systems that need to be confronted. I feel like God's not here. I feel like I'm a terrible Christian. I think this means I'm not even saved. I think this means I'm headed in the wrong direction. Is that what you want to believe? That's what's coming up to the surface, but is that what you want to believe? Because your worldview is your grid, and that grid gets stored in the confines of your soul, which the modern word is your psyche, your psychology, goes back to the Greek writings of the New Testament. Mark, you talk a lot about psychology. Okay, the Greek word psyche, soul, Jesus used it. Talked about the soul a lot. That's the grid you carry in your life. The imprint of belief systems. So trials bring out your worldview, how you see life. For me, it was I get the short end of the stick. And I had to look at that and go, because I verified it and verified it. See, get the short end of the stick. And it was just rejection screaming its megaphone. You're not loved. God he doesn't have your back. Want to know another one that would come to the surface? No one helps me when I need it. I'm all alone. Okay. That's a very disempowered belief, isn't it? How's that going to help me connect to God? So I had to decide, what am I going to do with this thought? And in all three of these key factors, you and I have decision. We have the ability to have decision in my life. The moment you feel like I can't choose, I have no choice and no options, that is a clear sign you are listening to the hordes of hell. Now, it doesn't mean that in the moment in dark trials, you have to find something that's going to fix everything overnight. But something I've learned the hard way is I have the ability to decide what my state of mind is going to be, and I have the ability to decide what is my worldview going to be. And I believe as believers, no matter where we are, we can hold on to the three that remain: faith, hope, and love. Always building love, always building hope. Oh, I forgot to mention, as you build hope, that builds faith, because faith is the substance of things hoped for. Every day your faith is grabbing onto hope. What's your hope based on? Is it based on the love that God has for you? Or is it based on circumstances being okay? Or your current feelings that are off? Or whatever? What's it based on? Faith grabs on and it takes action. Faith is always taking action on the hope that it's holding on to based on the love that God has for us. So I have the ability to decide, and out of decision, I act, even when the feelings are not there. I've learned how to step forward when the feelings aren't lining up. God, I'm just going to believe you're here. And no part of my emotional state is connecting to that. But there's a seed of faith and the ability to decide, God, I feel like you're not here, but that's not where I want to stay. I choose to believe that you're carrying me through. I choose to believe you're bringing me, you're leading me somewhere. So what about you? What's your worldview that comes up during tragedy trials? What happens when you see tragedy for other people? Do you say, oh man, they had it coming to them? What happens when you see tragedy happening to people around you? Do you go, yeah, well, they never take care of their finances anyway, so they, woo, look at that nice Pharisaical. The Pharisee spirit is everywhere. You know what I'm talking about, folks. They love to just put their judgments on people while they're vulnerable and struggling. Happens when people are sick, happens when people are going through trial. They give their religious remedies. Well, let me tell you what you should be doing. Right? I'm not going to do that. Not going to do that. But I want to ask you, what's your view of God when you go through a trial? Is it, he's not good, he's leaving me hanging? It brings out, doesn't it, the wounds. Because folks, we live in a world where we're all like professional hiders and camouflagers of our brokenness. We survive. We're all broken, but the only difference is those who recognize their brokenness and how much others are just hiding them, hiding those areas, hiding those wounds. The trials humble us and bring out those things. The people whose finances go well for a very long time, they always have that quick answer. Well, you really should just do this and your finances will be better. And then they get crippled by financial hardship and it humbles them and it changes their haughty worldview. Trials humble us. They really do. And God's like, I'm here. And this is what I sense God often wants to do during trials. How about we get real? How about we have a real relationship? How about you really learn how much I love you? How about you slow down the busy and really learn what it means to be loved? How about you really learn the grace that's available to you right now and stop striving and beating yourself up and wearing yourself out? How about you learn my rest? How about you learn my empowerment? Sometimes we can't even hear that because we're like, oh, it's my fault. I just did it wrong. God's cursing me out. Right? I've done that. I talked about this in other videos that what brought to the surface, this disempowered my journey in trials every time. And these were, this is going to lead into number 3 because I might as well get into number 3. Number 1 is your current emotional state. Number 2 is your worldview. Number 3 is the questions that you ask. In a trial, it brings out, it reveals your mood, it brings your worldview, but it also brings out the questions that you start asking. The questions lead you to what you're going to look for. So number 1 and number 2 drive number 3. Follow me? So your mood, your worldview of God, yourself, others, is going to influence then the questions you ask when trials hit. Right? Here's questions I brought up that would never lead anywhere good. The questions were this: what am I doing wrong? Now, the devil loves to answer that question. You see, the questions we ask trigger the voice that's going to speak. Oh, this is so good. Will you catch this? This is for the remnant. This is those who really want to overcome. The questions you ask will attract the voice that's going to then get your attention. So, if I say, what did I do wrong? That's not attracting heaven and the work of God in my life. His ministry is not the ministry of condemnation. He's not sitting there trying to point out everything that you're doing wrong. He knows how, as a good father, to bring us into areas of correction. He knows how to do that. But it's not in response to what am I doing wrong. That brings out the critic. That brings out the accuser. So Satan has a list of 5,466 things he's going to tell you in response to them. So now you're lost in all these things because at any current state, you and I have a list of 5,766 things that are flaws in our life that we could point to. It says you're doing wrong. So that was a terrible question. And I had to confront that question and let it go. It's not about what you're doing wrong. It's about what's available in this trial for the learning. It's not about that. Because I'd get lost in pity. I'd get lost and I'd be stuck in depression. The second thing was another form of that. I would ask this question. What am I not doing that I should be doing? I remember in the early stages of ministry work, I was like, man, this is taking forever to get some of this ministry work off the ground. Finances were terrible. Everything was just, it was so difficult. So out of that, I would go, what am I doing wrong? And a list of things would hit me, and I tried to repent and work through it. And it's like, I was just swinging in the air. Then I would go to other people and go, what is it I'm not doing? And so what happens is when you do that, then it brings out all the advice givers. It brings out Job's friends. Job's friends had great advice, not what God was doing. Great advice, not what God was doing. So people say, you know what, Mark, in this ministry stage of your life and your journey, what you need is you need more intercessors. And I go, you know what I do? I need more intercessors. Right? Because who doesn't want more prayer? So I go, and I'm now striving in this. You know what, Mark? What you need is you need to go through this course and read this book. Okay, I'm going to read this book, read this thing. By the end of it, I'm going through 50 different things. And what am I not paying attention to? What God is doing in my journey. Nice advice, none of those things. What I really needed to know was just one step in front of the other, Mark, one day at a time. This is going to take longer than you think, but you're doing. And God taught me and brought me through things, and I learned. Oh, Mark, what you need is you need marketing, and you need to do this technique and that technique. And then I'd try it, and I'd do it. Spend hours and hours doing this thing and that. I've never used marketing to bring about someone to do coaching with me. And people have told me I should. I was like, oh, maybe I should, maybe that. And then at the end of the day, I was like, no, that's not bad for some people. I said, I just don't sense that's the priority for me in my journey. My marketing plan is this. Hey guys, this is what I'm talking about today. There you go. That's just my journey. Now, for some people, God may call them to understand marketing and use the techniques and use these things. And that's fine. There may be a day where there's aspects of that. Who knows? But I wasted a lot of time in the trial. Instead of just going through it and drawing near to God and keeping it simple, I was beating myself up and there's something I'm doing wrong. And listen to me, there's many of you that you're sick with disease and you got ailments, and God is doing a work and a journey, but you got this pressure, and then you get on Google and you start thinking, and then you're writing to these ministries or these things, and what's the thing I'm doing wrong? What's the thing I got to do to get fixed? And then I gotta I gotta fast. That's what it is. I'm gonna do a 40-day fast. You know, I didn't do that fast enough. I gotta do a water fast, and then I gotta take an end times course because I'm really not ready for the end times, so I should do that. And then it's like you're just doing spiritual calisthenics, like you jumping, push-ups, maybe and then you're more frustrated and more exhausted. No. Many will go into places, we've all done this. God, why? God, why? We ask that very common question many have asked throughout the centuries. There's never record in the history of humanity where that question has been empowering and helpful. God, why? Putting yourself at the level of God that he needs to answer to you to everything that's going on. Then we get more specific. God, why me? Because there's areas of our life that are formed by self-righteousness that think we don't deserve this. We live a life that doesn't deserve these kind of things. I pray, I read my Bible, I behave, I'm nice to people, so nice things happen. And trials mess up our A plus B equals C equations that we have of what we think should happen and what we think should not happen. So I began to go through a renovation in my life where I started changing the questions I was asking, because I noticed in the Bible, when they would ask these kind of questions, they wouldn't get those kind of answers. When David would say, God, why are my enemies surrounding me? You notice there wasn't any revelation. So he would change his tune to move into shifting the questions or shifting the things that he looks for. Your questions form what you look for. So if you're in a trial and you say, what's the one thing I can learn in this process? Revelation will start coming to you. It's going to be really simple. It's going to be so simple it may pass you by. It may just be perseverance, maybe patience. It may just be kind to yourself. Maybe and you'll want to skip past it. Okay, what's the next thing? Finding the better question. How can I grow in this situation? How can I shift how I relate to God? What's the upgrade saying in my life? What is God in his love and his grace calling me to the situation's bringing out? What is it highlighting that just needs some attention? For me, I know humility came out, learning to humble, learning to rest, Rest is huge because in trials, you start hustling. You start like getting exhausted and God will tell you the opposite. No, rest in me. What are you? Your control issues come up and right? Many times God's ways are leading us into a yoke that lets go of those burdens. Suffering and trials have a way of burning things out of us. That's why it's a word that's fiery. It means fiery. This pyrosis, this pyro, it's burning. And it's uncomfortable because it's burning. And we think it's burning us alive. It's just burning what needs to get removed. See, you're gold, but God's got to burn everything else off, right? Maybe he's burning out the anger, the seasons of my life. He's burning out the anxiety, burning out the fear of man, burning out what people think, burning out impatience. What character aspects is he beginning to burn out? Maybe you're so performance-oriented. You're so perfectionistic. You're so OCD in your thoughts. And God's going, I'm going to burn these patterns out of your life. I'm here in the midst of your trial. So in the takeaway, what's the one thing you can begin to recognize and say, you know what, I'm going to empower my mood, my state of mind? Number 2, what's the worldview that pops up that I need to be aware of? Because this is like journaling exercises I'm giving you here. And number 3, what are the questions I ask during trials that I need to shift and find the faith, hope, and love attracting questions that bring about that fruit in your life. So I pray this is a blessing to your life. I see some of you saying, this is good, this is helping you. I pray it encourages your life. And if you're in your journey, if you have some questions that maybe you think would be great to address on the show, you can write to me at mark@markdejesus.com. And if these resources are a blessing to your life, go to markdejesus.com, click a one-time donation, or you can support on a regular basis. But otherwise, it is an absolute blessing to speak into your life, to be a voice to encourage healing and freedom, to encourage the love and the grace of our Father that Jesus brought. I'm grateful for it. Look forward to seeing you all in future broadcasts. God bless.